They called him crazy, but what history overlooked is that his works, which today sell for millions of dollars, are not the result of his madness, but of the sanest strategy ever seen to overcome emotional pain. In this video, I will reveal to you 4 anchors he used to transform loneliness into the art that made him immortal. And stay until the end, because I will give you 2 free, scientifically proven tools so that you too can turn adversity into clarity. They will truly help you face those difficult moments, feelings of loneliness, and the inevitable pain that life brings. Vincent van Gogh was not crazy. He simply dedicated himself very seriously and profoundly to exploring his intricate and complex way of feeling. He meticulously explored his inner feelings to accurately identify and fully understand them, to be able to precisely single them out, and to thoughtfully analyze how to effectively live with them and integrate them into his daily existence. To carry out this exploration work that I'm currently telling you about, he had a primary and most important weapon, an essential tool for which, and for this very reason, he is currently globally recognized and celebrated. This is the first of his anchors that I want to talk to you about today: painting. But Van Gogh didn't paint to please people, he painted to help himself. Van Gogh painted to get to know himself, to reflect on the canvas what he felt and to not give in to the mental struggles he carried. He knew that many times the strength and intensity of his way of feeling distanced him from the rest of the world, and that caused him mental instability. And he dedicated himself seriously to working to prevent it. What's truly surprising is the quite remarkable way he accomplished it. Vincent van Gogh painted more than 2,000 paintings in the last 10 years of his short life. But pay attention, look, while he was alive, he only sold 1 painting, The Red Vineyard, and he did so at a group exhibition where he presented 2 paintings in Brussels, Belgium. The painting was bought by a Belgian collector named Anna Bosch for 400 francs at the time, which is about $1,000 in today's money. And today that painting is part of the permanent collection at the Pushkin Museum in Moscow. It's one of the most prestigious museums in the world. Well, even though he didn't manage to sell the beautiful paintings he meticulously made, and he knew deep down that he absolutely wouldn't be able to sell them, he steadfastly kept on painting every single day with unwavering dedication. And he truly did it. Moreover, despite living a life of extreme and profound poverty, what powerful force could possibly drive someone to persistently keep creating day after day, year after year, when his personal circumstances so strongly urged him to simply give up and completely let himself go, abandoning all hope and effort? You're going to be surprised again. But it's not hard to truly understand what profoundly compelled Van Gogh to paint with such intensity every single day, day after day. There were 3 realities: his profound intelligence, which inherently allowed him to fully understand the critical importance of diligent searching, his almost passionate and deeply ingrained desire to actively seek out and ultimately find effective ways to genuinely live with himself, and his acute awareness of the inherent strength and intense, compelling nature of his profound feelings, and how they could end up harming his mind. Once these 3 realities were identified, what were the paths he used to avoid giving up on his passionate search and to not abandon himself as well? In this case, there were 4. Exploring himself tirelessly and deeply, using painting as his primary and profound means of artistic expression, maintaining constant and heartfelt communication with his beloved brother Theo, and always staying intimately in touch with the natural world around him. Vincent van Gogh was not a madman, nor was he just a painter. He was a true genius, and today you will understand why. He understood that the best way to deeply study his powerful emotions and feelings was to paint. He analyzed them and painted them, and then dedicated himself to studying them. He sought to individualize and objectify each one of them, and his paintings were, for him, on the one hand, obviously a way to express himself, but on the other, they were his best way to try to heal. In May 1889, he voluntarily admitted himself to the monastery of St. Paul in Saint-Rémy, which is in the middle of the French Provence, and the monastery. It functioned as an asylum, but also as a psychiatric clinic. And for a time, in fact, he received treatment to recover. And as soon as he felt better, he started painting again. And where did he paint? In the studio they set up for him, in the gardens, in the fields around the monastery, and in the olive groves, which were also nearby. And while he was at the monastery, he created more than 150 paintings and over 100 drawings, among them one that we are going to focus on today in particular, the Starry Night. And by thoroughly discussing this significant work with you, we will carefully review together the initial two primary paths that Vincent van Gogh profoundly used throughout his artistic journey, deeply exploring himself and, of course, his passionate painting. What he discovered in that exploration. When you truly look at Vincent van Gogh's iconic masterpiece, The Starry Night, please don't do it as if you were merely looking at a typical night sky filled with ordinary stars, because that's absolutely not what it is. What the artist painted. Van Gogh painted the heightened reality of his emotions, and that's what he intended to show on the canvas. The torment he suffered inside, though not only that, but also his hope. He meticulously painted what he profoundly found deep within himself. He did not merely paint what his physical eyes actually beheld, and as he diligently did so, what he truly sought was to discover and ultimately find, or at the very least earnestly try to find, a profound sense of order and inner harmony within the complex depths of his own being. The incredible and tremendous inner chaos he felt. The sky in the painting is represented by spirals. As he did so, what he sought was to find, or try to find, order in the tremendous inner chaos he felt. The sky in the painting is depicted by turbulent spirals and swirls of light. Every brushstroke, every swirl seeks to reflect the emotions the painter felt. In fact, a recent study from April 2025, conducted by engineers at the University of Virginia in the United States, argues that the swirls shown in the painting, contrary to what has been said until now, were not intended to be a scientific demonstration. They do not follow the rules of physical real flow. They were, and indeed still are, simply a profound artistic expression, nothing more, nothing less. Van Gogh did not copy reality. He thoroughly explored, diligently pursued, successfully captured, and deeply reflected upon his complex emotions. The enormous and dark cypress that appears, thank you. In the foreground of the painting, it functions as an element that rises from the earth, all the way to the sky. It is the bridge between the physical world in which Van Gogh lived and the infinite cosmos where he existed with his feelings and emotions. The stars and the moon in the painting are not just ordinary and unremarkable, peaceful points of light. He depicted them as truly vibrant, glowing halos, full of immense energy and brilliant color. These celestial forms represent Van Gogh's profound cry of hope, as if he ardently wanted to paint the deep spiritual comfort he genuinely found within them, which powerfully allowed him to escape the harsh earthly despair in which he tragically lived. I invite you to pay attention because it is truly amazing how much you can come to understand today about this genius of universal painting. To deeply explore himself and paint in his numerous canvases and detailed drawings what he truly discovered, these profound personal insights were indeed his very first and his equally significant second paths. On his third path, so as not to abandon himself, Vincent would regularly write to his brother Theo. Theo was his confidant, and in his letters he described how he was able to understand very well the causes that led to his loneliness and his mental instability. And in one of them, as a sign of the strength with which he felt that desire to paint, Vincent wrote to Theo. He said, "I feel within me a fire that I cannot let go out. On the contrary, I must stoke it." Theo was his only one, his only support and his only close bond with the world. He was the only one who supported him emotionally and financially, and his communication with him was constant. In fact, more than 650 of those letters have been preserved. They are a true spiritual, artistic, and psychological biography of the painter. And they are also undeniable and concrete proof that what I'm telling you is precisely and accurately as I'm telling it. Van Gogh, in his bravery and genius, constantly analyzed his sensations, his feelings, and his loneliness. He painted them and then shared it all with his brother Theo. Can you imagine reaching that point? Can you imagine what it meant for him to feel the need to do this constantly? Because Van Gogh didn't just suffer pain and feel loneliness. He would pause, reflect, try to objectify his emotions and paint them. And what he discovered was what he shared with Theo, his brother. Doing this helped him to fully understand them and their perspectives. In one of his letters, he explained to him whether in the figure or in the landscape, I would like to express not something like a melancholic sentimentality, but a profound pain. It couldn't have been an easy endeavor to undertake day after day for countless years in profound solitude and fully knowing that what he was diligently dedicating his immense efforts to had no other profound purpose than to deeply explore and genuinely help himself. Van Gogh was not only an extraordinary genius, he was also incredibly brave and remarkably courageous. With his intelligence, he was able to identify his problem. With his vital desire to live in peace with himself, he sought out paths. To do so, and aware of the strength and intensity of his feelings and sensations, what he did was to explore within himself. He used painting as a vehicle and letters to his brother as therapy. But I still need to explain to you the fourth of the paths he used. Although first, if you don't mind, I think we should pause for a moment and do a brief, very brief, analysis. While we are analyzing how Van Gogh searched for the causes of his problems, let's ask ourselves, what exactly do we do in such situations? Sadly, the unfortunate reality is that many times we instinctively run away when we profoundly feel intense sadness, overwhelming anxiety, or deep loneliness, instead of truly thinking deeply about precisely why we feel this particular way and what effective actions we can genuinely take to actively get ourselves out of that difficult emotional state. What we do is try to distract ourselves. We often go out for a delightful coffee, or we might cling to our modern phones and their various applications, or perhaps we simply start watching an engaging TV series. How many times, instead of simply running away from a challenge, have you truly paused and deeply asked yourself the fundamental question, why? I feel this way. What can I do to fix it? This is one of the great mistakes of our modern society. We only look at the effects, we don't ask ourselves about the causes. It's like this. Imagine you're lying in the middle of a field and it starts to rain. and your concern is just your wet clothes, without thinking that what you really need to do is find shelter from the rain. What's the real problem? That your clothes are getting wet, or that you don't have a roof to protect you from the rain? Think about something that keeps repeating in your life, a pain, an emotion, an argument that happens over and over again, a feeling of being stuck. Here's another example. If you start to feel pain in your joints, it usually means those joints are inflamed. So in this situation, what you might do is stay still so it doesn't hurt and start taking painkillers to reduce it. The detrimental effects of the chronic pain, and so the persistent pain, will inevitably keep returning once the temporary relief provided by the painkillers has completely worn off. In a few short months, it's very likely that you'll discover that your capacity to move with ease or engage in productive work has become significantly more restricted on the causes that triggered the inflammation. Usually it will be due to an improper diet, perhaps one lacking essential nutrients, or not adequately exercising those specific joints, which can lead to stiffness and discomfort over time. Another example, if you notice that your social life is being affected and you don't feel comfortable with yourself, it's probably not your job or your studies, nor is it likely to be your partner, the traffic, or the bad weather that's causing it. And very likely it's not your friends either. Rather, it's much more likely that it's something inside you that's not right. Looking towards the future, do you feel a significant lack of clear direction in your personal life? Perhaps you still aren't entirely clear about what your true and essential mission is at this very moment in your life. Or perhaps it could be that you simply aren't as courageous and determined as you truly need to be in order to rise up, take that crucial first step, and begin moving forward in the absolutely correct and proper direction. And deep down within your very soul, you undeniably know this to be the absolute truth. All of this might be making you profoundly doubt yourself or feel deeply insecure, and these persistent doubts are precisely what make you inevitably pull away, feel inexplicably sad without any clear or discernible reason, or sometimes even become intensely angry. And in the face of this challenging situation, does it truly make logical sense not to actively work on diligently searching for answers and solutions? What is it that causes those feelings? And yet, you blame problems at work, your studies, your partner, the traffic, or the bad weather. Van Gogh understood well what was happening to him and set out to work on it. You can too. If you truly don't make the necessary effort to pause and carefully observe precisely what it is that's genuinely hurting you, you will never fully understand what it truly is. It is in essence the underlying causes that provoke that persistent pain. And if you completely ignore the underlying causes, the inevitable effect, that is, the profound pain, will certainly come back, and each successive time it will return even stronger, each time much deeper. Like that intense throbbing pain that inevitably comes back when the effects of the painkillers completely wear off. It's not that hard, it's really not, and that's what today's video is about. You absolutely need effective paths, robust methods, and practical ways, and the specific paths you choose to employ and carry out that process within yourself must also inherently be powerful tools that actively help to keep you from sinking. Anchors. An anchor is what holds a ship to the land so that the currents don't carry it away. That is to say, and this is very important, the tool that's used to keep the ship from sinking. Because if it sinks, because if the current takes it away, it will end up sinking. We all need to identify, we all need to have our own anchors. What are yours? For Van Gogh, the first one, it was to explore himself. He studied his feelings and emotions. The second was to paint what he discovered. The third was to share his discoveries with his brother. He didn't just stop at realizing he had a wound. He observed it. And you, in fact, if you're still here, it's more than likely that without realizing it, you're already meditating and looking within yourself. But those three individuals weren't his sole foundational anchors. The self-exploration he did forced him to analyze and synthesize the pain and loneliness he felt. He used painting as a way to visualize his deep feelings and sensations. And when he looked at those images painted by himself, which had sprung from within him, he could objectify them, he could identify them. The image helped him in their importance and in their effects. And then came the letters, which were his most human and verbal way to share what that loneliness and pain he experienced were like for him. But as I was saying, he also had a fourth path, a fourth anchor to avoid being swept away by the currents. And this was perhaps his most profound and effective therapeutic bond, truly the essential tool that helped him to heal and recover the most completely. Moreover, it was his primary and most cherished refuge, the vast and comforting embrace of nature itself. Van Gogh used olive trees, cypresses, wheat fields, the stars, as his best emotional language. And by painting an agitated cypress or a turbulent sky, what he was really doing was capturing his own state of mind. And by having it painted on a canvas outside of himself, it was no longer in his head. It was on the canvas and he was able to see it. And in that way tangible, he could analyze it. He painted with colors that sometimes can surprise those who only look at the painting without imagining the true reason behind those colors. And they are neither the result of chance nor a reflection of what the painter saw with his eyes. Those vibrant and rich colors are a reflection of what he found when truly exploring deep within his profound inner being. And that's how he told Theo in his letters. He would often talk to him about the specific colors he carefully used and explain how those particular colors allowed him to effectively distance himself from his immediate personal experience and truly focus on the technical and emotional aspects of his true art, which was, in essence, a profound journey of self-exploration. In short, nature and everything else. What inspired him were therapeutic connections. They were just another tool in his attempt to heal. Follow his example, go deeper. Don't just acknowledge your problems. Work on finding their causes and analyze the tools or anchors, if you prefer to call them that best help you avoid being swept away by the currents. And visualize your success. You just need to be consistent in your analysis. Van Gogh knew how to turn his emotional struggles and the causes of his loneliness into a legacy that will undoubtedly be valuable for generations to come. And you, at the very least, can do the same to find the strength you need every day to keep moving forward. So, what exactly can truly help you achieve this particular goal? Well, allow me to give you two more incredibly useful tools, which are very basic and completely free of charge. If you value everything you can achieve by using the tools I'm about to give you, you'll be able to find meaning in each one of them. They are simple, easy, and above all, as I said, free. And it's not just me saying this, the Greater Good Science Center at the University of California, Berkeley says it too. In other words, what I'm telling you has a scientific basis. What are those two tools? The first one, go outside. Go out into the street, take walks, surround yourself with nature. Never lock yourself in, go outside, And when you do, you'll naturally release endorphins in your body and start to feel better. You'll boost your positive energy and help yourself explore within from a positive perspective. A positive one. What is the second tool? Writing. Write and try to do it regularly, on paper, in a journal, or in an app. It's something that will help you find your emotional patterns, in other words, your usual way of feeling. And writing requires attention and a certain amount of quiet around you when you sit down to do it. Focus on what truly makes you feel the way you do, something only you are truly able to understand. Write it down. Dedicate 10 dedicated minutes a day to it, and then thoughtfully ask yourself, what is blocking your progress today? Where does it come from? This thing that I feel. And one important thing, when you get to this point, don't look for perfect answers. You are alone and you are writing for yourself. Write honestly. And by doing so, you will genuinely start to effectively heal from the very core of the issue. This could be the most direct path toward discovering the causes that are triggering your difficult moments, the causes themselves. The studies from the University of California that I mentioned show that keeping a journal reduces stress. And why is that? It's very simple, because writing helps you process your emotions. In other words, it allows you to look at them from the outside, visualize them, and therefore see them with greater objectivity. Exactly what Van Gogh did when he painted and then wrote to Theo, his brother. Seeing them clearly reflected on the canvas and truly colored helped him deeply contemplate them, genuinely allowed him to thoughtfully reflect on them, and then, subsequently, he could effectively write about them. When you achieve that objectivity, it's normal for you to start experiencing, in just a few weeks, improvements in your mental health and balance. The fact of knowing exactly what is causing you pain or loneliness and having it objectified, in other words, having it clear for yourself, as if you had been able to paint it on a canvas, will help you to experience that improvement. Another study, closely related to the previously mentioned study, which was published in the year 2013, revealed that a significant 76% of individuals who diligently documented their emotional states prior to undergoing surgical procedures experienced a profound sense of emotional healing and recovery within a mere few weeks following their operations. And another, even earlier one from 2003, concluded that doing so also showed cognitive benefits. That's why I told you that Van Gogh was not only brave, but also, and above all, a genius. If you don't observe and identify what hurts you, that pain will stay. And Van Gogh understood this perfectly. And so, he shared it with his brother. It's not just about being brave, it's about being smart, and you are. It's just that you probably never thought about it this way. Always keep this crucial point firmly in mind. When you truly understand the underlying causes, the resulting effects will inevitably change. Van Gogh transformed his pain into beauty, and you can turn your adversity into clarity. Start today. Go for a walk. Write, even if it's just for 10 minutes. And do it for 3 days in a row. You'll see that something inside you will start to move. Van Gogh didn't paint for the entire world. He painted to truly understand his own profound inner chaos. And what exactly are you going to do to deeply understand your own? If you truly like this story, share it with someone who deserves to be reminded that even in the face of significant adversity, great opportunities can still be found. And if you want me to, for example, suggest some apps that could help you when you sit down to write, or if you want me to share with you the studies I mentioned, write to me in the comments. I read them, and I encourage you to keep moving forward, always forward.